All right. Trying to do my setup here. It's been a little while since we've been on YouTube. Let's see. So I've never done YouTube without StreamYard. How's my mic? Is it working? Testing. How can I check to see if this mic is working? Bear with me, guys. This is a new setup. Yeah, so the show is not back on. I'm just sort of playing around with YouTube right now for a bit. But I'm going to try to do a TikTok while I'm doing this YouTube test. Once I can double check that my mic is working. Josh, could you hear my mic? Okay, great, cool. All right. So I'm going to go on TikTok at the same time. Just because on TikTok we could get some interaction. 1 second, guys. Choose my setup. I have a motorcycle parked in my studio. I know. It's sort of a new setup. But let's try something. Sure to be fun. Go live. Facts. Green screen. Which one is it? Is it this one? No, is it this one? This one? This one, maybe. This one. That one. Not that one. Bear with me, guys. I'm almost there. I believe your image uses a sticker. No, we don't want that. We don't. What about this one? Awesome. So if everything goes good with TikTok, we'll be able to get a few conversations going here. So for my YouTube audience out there, yes, my YouTube channel was hacked right before I went to India, a day before. Weird timing. And I sort of left it like that. I had a backup channel that I never really did much with. I had around 500 subscribers. And it took me about 2 weeks to re-upload all my videos. Around 1,300 videos. YouTube limits you to 100 videos a day that you can upload. So, yeah, good evening, TikTok world. So we're both currently live on YouTube and on TikTok. I guess you guys could find me on TikTok if you want to come on the actual show. Maybe I should have done this with StreamYard because StreamYard allows you to interact with people. But for my TikTok audience, guys, you you're currently live on YouTube, so just know that you're entertaining two audiences here. So I want to ask the question, how does being a Jew work? Like, what do you do? It's interesting. You know how Muslims constantly say that in Islam, all you have to do is say your Shahada? Conversion to Judaism used to be that quick. The only examples of somebody converting to Judaism in rabbinic literature is that famous story of the guy who comes to Hillel to convert, and Hillel and Shammai. Sounds like it's the same guy, whatever. I don't know if it's figurative. It seems like it's literal. And in all these instances that he comes under false pretenses, it says that Hillel converts him miyad, immediately. This is the only story of the conversion process in Jewish law. So how is that any quicker than a Shahada? As a matter of fact, the average mosque doesn't just let you walk in and say your Shahada, right? I mean, they in some way make it a formal ceremony. So I'm sure Judaism was formulated the same way. I think Islam took it from Judaism. So let's see. Someone writes, yes, Leviticus is so great to believe. Okay. Hold on, I'm reading the comments here on my TikTok. They couldn't sell me on the cross. What you think you can sell me on the menorah? Nice little line. Okay, let's see. Okay, so Joshua Connor, was it the Radbaz that says we don't have to believe in anything and just follow Halacha? Can we find the source to confirm that? Yes, this is what the Radbaz writes in a Teshuvah. I'm sure you could. It's a famous Teshuvah stating that a Jew doesn't have to believe in anything but just keep the laws. Yeah, I mean, I'll search for the source. Yeah, because this is brought down a lot. The Radbaz, Sefer HaIkarim by Rabbi Yosef Albo, and the Rambam. The three places within Jewish, I guess, I don't know. I don't like calling it rabbinical literature because it's just really like commentary, really. It's not like an Talmud or anything that talks about what a Jew must believe in. So there's a dispute on it. The simple fact that these rabbis can agree shows that you're not limited to 13 or 3, right? Because Sefer HaIkarim says you have to believe in 3 things. Sefer HaIkarim actually even says that you don't even have to believe in Mashiach. So when people make it seem like, oh, you're not sold on this modern notion of the Messiah, right? I'm sure the average rationalist has no issue with the Rambam's understanding of the Messiah. But these mystics who are so Messiah crazy claim to understand the notion of the Messiah according to the Rambam, but they disregard everything else the Rambam teaches, especially about the Messiah. But of course, they try to incorporate everything into this cholent belief that they made for themselves, and then they criticize you when you don't accept their version of the Messiah, while they claim it's from the Rambam, and it's not at all. But fine. Let's see. Hello, my friend Layla. Why are you proselytizing? Why not? It's so silly. We're clearly going to get past this. On TikTok, at least. People on YouTube have known me for a pretty long time. That I constantly say that proselytizing is no big deal. There's nothing in Judaism against proselytizing. I know that most Jews don't do it nowadays because they just don't know. Most Jews don't know that there's nothing in Judaism that prohibits proselytizing outside of modern day culture, modern day Jewish culture that for some reason thinks that it's not allowed. The reason it hasn't been allowed amongst Jews, it's not because of Jewish people, but it's because of our oppressors. They didn't allow us to proselytize in their host countries. They didn't want us converting Christians or Muslims to Judaism. That's why. It's not that there was some law somewhere that said that Jews aren't supposed to proselytize. As a matter of fact, people like the Rambam specifically says it's allowed. I mean, there's a Teshuvah, he specifically says that you're allowed to teach Christians Torah to draw them to our religion, right? But for some reason, the big rabbis out there are just not familiar with anything other than Art Scroll Judaism. Okay, let's see. Let me read some of the stuff. Someone says, oh.
Hey, Asher, am I on?
You are on. I mean, how'd you sneak in?
Yeah, can't see the square. The squares.
Yeah, I didn't even approve it. It just flew in. Okay. Yeah, good. You are live on YouTube as well. Hold on, let me put the mic here so people could hear you a little better. All right. Yeah, what's up? What's on your mind tonight?
Man, I spend after we get off live, I just mull over the things that we talk about. It's a lot of new, some new perspective on things.
Oh, someone says it's static. Okay, let's try to move it back. Yeah, I wasn't even gonna go live. I just came back from a run, and I'm sweaty, and I just felt like I don't know. It's good dialoguing with people. It just kind of keeps me all in line and all my wires realigned. It's good to bounce your ideas off of people.
Yeah, that's why I'm glad it alerts me when you go live. I just hop right on.
Yeah, I'm here to serve humanity. The reason I do this so much is because there aren't other people doing it. Once Jews start caring about the rest of the world, then maybe I wouldn't come out on YouTube as much. I do prefer influence to power. I don't care about being popular. I'm more infamous than popular for some reason. People have this big deal like, what is he doing? And I don't really do anything outside of the norm of what every other rabbi does, with the exception that I encourage people to consider looking into Judaism. That's it. That's what makes it controversial. Oh boy. All right, let me read some of these questions.
What makes other rabbis just, like you said the Rambam says that you should do that? What makes people just omit that part of the teaching?
Kabbalah.
Wow.
Kabbalah changed the whole game. Kabbalah rewrote the purpose for becoming or remaining Jewish. Okay, someone asked, where are you from? I live in South Florida, in Hollywood, Florida. Okay. And I don't know why people here on TikTok are scared to say where they live. I mean, when they have like some weird anonymous name and no picture. All right, just let it know. I mean, what's the big deal?
The internet is crazy these days, as I'm sure you know.
Oh, I never ask people for their address. I'm just curious what city they live in. All right, so somebody wrote here about the Zohar. It's a bloodline thing. You can become a Jewish, but not a Jew. I don't know who wrote that. He must be a Muslim. For some reason, there's a lot of miscommunication amongst Muslims on social media, and they walk around so proud of themselves, thinking that they've defeated every religious argument, but they still walk around thinking that you can't become Jewish, that you have to be born Jewish. You know, if that was true, then I wouldn't. I mean, I'd probably become a Muslim. If it's true that the rendition of the Jewish God is that he only elevates a certain group of people because of DNA, then he couldn't be God to me. Now, that's clearly not the case in the Torah, but this is the way Muslims see it, and I think this is why Muslims remain Muslims. If they would really embody the idea that anyone could become Israel, then it would hit them like a ton of bricks that they're essentially rewriting the playbook because they feel that they're the universal religion. But if Judaism was universal from its inception, then what do you need Islam for? You don't. Because it claims, right, because they teach that Moses gave over the law only to Israel. And then like Muhammad in some way made it universal. Like it's, Islam has a place, but Islam doesn't have a place. Not if Judaism performed the same function. Okay, hold on. There's too many questions coming in fast. Okay, the Mashiach has come and you rejected him. Okay. The only way to our Father is through Jesus. Okay, are you talking about Jewish or Zionist? I'm never going to talk about politics on the show. So I don't talk about Zionism. Okay, Moses is asked to atone sin through animal sacrifice because God knows Jesus will be sacrificed. Okay, you believe that in faith. The Zohar came to me in my dreams. I don't know what that means. Jesus is proven to be the Messiah. That's what Christians believe. Someone is coming up here with the Ukrainian flag.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Привет, товарищ. Как дела?
You talking to me?
Oh, I don't know. You have a Ukrainian flag up. I thought you spoke Russian.
Oh, no. Sorry. I mostly did that in support once the war.
Oh, man, I should have a Russian flag up because I support the other side. Okay, so what's up, bro?
You support Russia?
Yes, sir.
I thought we weren't getting into politics.
No, well, he had a Ukrainian flag up,
Got you there, huh?
That's ooh.
Yeah,
Hey,
I know.
Whatever you want. Politics, I'll leave it alone.
It's Mirit Comunista. Welcome, Fried Podcast.
I love Judaism. Even as a Muslim, I think Judaism is such a beautiful religion.
That's an Islamic tactic. And then you're going to say that you love Jesus too, right?
What do you mean?
No, that's...
Of course I love Jesus like a prophet, I guess.
No, I understand, but it's like an Islamic tactic. Hey, look, I do the same thing also. I could say that I love Jesus. I just don't believe he's God or the Messiah, but I think he's a cool, like religious guy. I mean, for sure.
Well, no. When I say I love Judaism, I actually do, because I'm not, listen, don't destroy like Christianity, Catholicism, or anything. But when it comes to like holding true to your religion, I only say like Islam and Judaism, they help me out. Like, it's like, yo, my boy, we don't eat pork. We're cousins in sense of religion. Like, I really do mean it.
Yeah, but we all eat chicken,
Muslim,
though.
I probably would have been following Judaism.
We should all unite on chicken, like the...
That's a fact.
Yeah, like the Simpsons episode.
But here's the issue. All religions around the world have been weaponized. Hold on, let me mute. Senses against anyone that disagrees with them.
Here, can you repeat that again? I'm sorry, because you broke up a little bit.
I'm sorry. I'll hold the phone closer to my face. So, my issue is all religions have been weaponized in one way or another against anyone who disagrees with them. So, like, Christianity ravaged the world. Muslim people fought lots of wars to, secure land or, whatever. I believe this and you believe that.
Yeah, how about Judaism? How about Judaism?
Judaism?
That's what this show's about.
You're talking about being Jewish, right?
Yeah. How has Judaism become weaponized?
Because, okay, this is going to be, I'm not trying to say this in a political way.
All right.
Let me make that clear. I'm just looking at it from a logical stance. Jerusalem beats down on Palestine.
Okay.
And the way that I've seen it, yes. Are there terrorists that live there? Yeah. Or, I don't know.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. Okay. All right. So the state of Israel is not a religious country. So anything they do, against the Palestinians in the name of the state of Israel doesn't speak for Judaism or the Jewish Bible. Right. So.
Right. But they shoot like 3 missiles. None of them hit, or maybe one hits.
Uh-huh.
And like maybe one soldier is injured with a head injury or whatever. They're injured in some minor way. Rush to a hospital. And then Israel just fires a massive amount.
I know, but we're not talking about Israel here. We're talking about Judaism. So Judaism hasn't been weaponized. I'll tell you, it's too small to be weaponized against anyone who's not Jewish. Because I'll tell you, Judaism is weaponized against Jews within it. Like every religion first starts off like policing its own people. And once they get big enough and they have this global vision, then they think they know what's best for the world, right? That's the Islamic notion of a global caliphate, which, but Judaism, if anything, you can do more in reforming Judaism or in some way making it great again than you could with Islam or Christianity, because Islam and Christianity is way too big. To ever do anything with it, anything purposeful. At least Judaism has always remained on the grassroots level, right? There is a bureaucracy within it, right? But it doesn't, being that it doesn't proselytize, unfortunately, it really has very little to say to the rest of the world.
Rabbi, can I ask a quick question? I'm so sorry. I'll leave after.
Yeah. No,
just in terms of Judaism, I was just curious. For Jewish people, do you believe like heaven, for example, is it only Jewish people that go to heaven, or anyone that follows the Abrahamic religion could be granted heaven? Or it doesn't matter. You just have to believe in God.
I'm going to tell you what most Jews believe, and then I'll tell you what I believe. Okay, so most most Jews believe that all righteous people will make it to the world to come. This is what most Jews believe. Because they believe that if you're not Jewish, God is going to hold you against the 7 laws of Noah. However, many Orthodox Jews believe that the average Christian doesn't fall into that rubric because they believe that believing that Jesus is God incarnate like violates the principle of idolatry, and the average Christian doesn't fall into that. However, some people like Rav Kook felt that Muslims do fall under that. So the average Jew would believe that a religious Muslim would get a place in the world to come, although it contradicts other things. But I'm telling you what the vast majority of Jews believe. The Torah doesn't really talk about heaven. I'm sorry?
No, I just said thank you. Thank you for answering.
Yeah. The Torah itself doesn't talk about a heaven or a hell. It seems that the depiction of heaven and hell, or the roots of heaven and hell, came from the notion of exile and redemption. But living in the land in some sort of redeemed state is our form of heaven from a Torah perspective. It says, seeing your children grow old, having rain in its season, having peace. This is what essentially got twisted into the notion of heaven, some celestial place, being exiled, being occupied, being killed by your neighbors. That's what became hell. But that's all the Torah talks about. Heaven and hell on this planet. It seems that the Torah wants you to be more earthly minded than heavenly minded. Some people are too heavenly good, they're no earthly good. If you take it to its most irrational perspective, then you have people blowing themselves up because they're fed up with this planet and they just want virgins in the next planet. So this is why I think God wants us to be more earthly minded than heavenly minded. So
that's a very fair point. I understand. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So what's your religion?
My religion, I follow Islam, but I have so much. My best friend's Jewish, for example. I'm from New York City, so right by a big Jewish community. It does seem to me though that they don't really want people to convert to Judaism. I feel like they're set with just who's born into it, which I understand.
Right, unfortunately,
but it's something that I think should be spread. I think religion could be a great thing if it's used properly.
Yeah,
I've never seen a Jewish people in my time do anything that hurt me or hurt anyone else here. So I think religion could actually do a lot of good, especially Jewish people. Yeah. They all seem fine to me.
I feel the same way about Islam, by the way. I mean, I feel that if a Jewish person is not going to embrace the religion of his ancestors, they should at least embrace some form of ethical monotheism, whether it's ethical 100%. Christianity or ethical Islam. However, as a Jewish person, I feel my belief system is better. As a Muslim, you should feel the same thing about your religion if you remain that religion. So saying what's good for us is good for other people is healthy.
I think it's just I was also born into it in the sense too, so it took some exploring and figure out other religions. But I did come to love it in a lot of things, and that has helped me. I think religion in general. But I could say that, and if I was born a Christian, maybe I would have found love through Christianity as well. But
have you ever considered Judaism?
More educated.
Have you ever considered Judaism?
I mean, not necessarily considered in the terms of conversion, because I don't know if I ever would convert. But in terms of understanding religion, having a broad respect, I've tried to read the Torah, because I've heard in Islam you're supposed to read the Torah and then the Bible and then the Quran, because it's sort of all set from God, and the Quran is the final word. Which in itself that's an argument too. Why is he sending so many books? But no, I try to stay educated on it. I definitely want to learn a lot more before I even think of something like that.
Yes, that's a good question to ask. Why would he send so many books?
You seem like a good, very smart, intelligent guy. You seem like you know what you're talking about.
Oh, I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
I think it influenced a lot of people to find God.
That's one question I ask constantly, and I get people to ponder. Why would God send so many books, especially when every one of these books that he supposedly sent says that he's not going to send any more books? Because the Torah says don't add or take away from it. The New Testament says don't add or take away from it. The Quran says don't add or take away from it. So they had a safety net already built in because they knew the danger of more people claiming progressive revelations. So just on that principle alone, it should get you to at least start and remain with Judaism, because that same God said, I'm not going to, you can improve on my message. Oh, I mean, he stepped out for a second. Okay. Let's see. Judaism actively discourages conversion. Don't trust this guy. He's not even observant. People don't even know me. Okay. It's true. I am a thug. But I'm like a thug for Hashem, if that makes any sense. But yeah, Judaism, it's interesting. What is Judaism? Judaism is technically what Jews do. Judaism, unfortunately, is not what the Torah teaches. So I could say that Judaism holds a certain opinion nowadays, and it appears nothing or nowhere in the oral law or the written law. because if it did, for example, if for some reason, if the oral law or the written law prohibited encouraging people to become Jewish, I wouldn't do it. Okay. But by the simple fact that it doesn't prohibit it, and that's what makes me a rabbi, being an expert to some extent of the written and oral law, then that's why I think it's a great idea. And I do proselytize. But I challenge every educated Jew out there to come on the show and dialogue with me and show me how it's prohibited in Judaism to encourage people to consider becoming Jewish. Let's see. How do you convert to Judaism? Go to your local synagogue and tell them, I want to be a part of you guys. Okay, someone says, wrong. Judaism is what God gave the Jewish people, the Torah. So where in the Torah does it tell us that it's wrong to encourage people to consider becoming Jewish? Please answer that question. Could you break down the Shema? That's something I do. How do you become a bloodline? Yeah, for some reason, Israel is not a bloodline. This notion. Now, there's a spiritual aspect of Israel. We know that on Mount Sinai, there's sort of mixed multitude of people, Midianites, Hittites, many different people known as the Erev Rav. And then a few chapters later, they're absorbed into Israel. It says later, there shall be one law for the native born and the sojourner that attaches himself to you. And they all, God never says, the Torah never says God spoke to the children of Israel and the converts and the Erev Rav. No, it just says the children of Israel. Why? Because after they all accepted the Torah, they were considered Israel. This is why converts are considered Israel. So this primitive understanding where you can't convert to a bloodline, it's because you're mistaken at the outset. Judaism or the Jewish people are not a bloodline only. And as a matter of fact, if you happen to be a direct descendant of Moses and you don't believe in God, how are you special to God or in a covenant with God? Right? I mean, you may be an ethnic Hebrew, but what does that mean? So it's clearly all about belief and practice. It's always been only about belief and practice. Let's see. I apologize.
Yeah, I get into that argument a lot with people because if you looked on my page, you see I am African American. So people always once I say I want to convert to being a Jew, people always ask about the Hebrew Israelite thing, and I always say
African American.
What you say. It doesn't matter what bloodline you're in. I can be King David's lineage. If I don't follow the same commandments that David followed, David wouldn't want any part with me.
Right. See, the problem is, it's not so much that they have wrong information. Because I don't expect people who haven't been taught properly to know what the heck they're talking about when they speak about Judaism. It's that they've never heard a Jew correct them before. And I'm not the only Jewish person on TikTok. They stay quiet. Jewish people on TikTok only talk about Israel-Palestine issues. And when someone makes the claim that, Judaism is an ethno-religion and we're a people based on blood, the Jewish people stay quiet, which is ridiculous. Where Jewish people could say, well, yes, that's partially true, right? I mean, if you happen to have a Jewish mother, you don't have to reconvert. I mean, assuming that you're a religious person, you could still be in a covenant. But then, if you convert to Judaism, you are also Israel. Why don't they say that? It's a shame. The Jewish people, our biggest enemies are from within, unfortunately. Okay, Talmud in Yevamos 46 or 47, and that clearly says to discourage conversion. It does not say it. Look it up. It says, what do you tell a convert when he comes to convert? It says, don't you know the Jewish people are downtrodden and mistreated, right? And if it says that, yes, if I should join them, then it says that you accept them, miyad, right away. That's all it says. It never says to discourage a convert. Okay, however, if somebody comes with impure motives, you should push such a person away. And the best example we have of that is Ruth was in some way discouraged by Naomi because Naomi thought that the only reason she was coming to the Jewish people was because there was a famine. That's it. But the idea that we should discourage people, I mean, did Hillel break that halacha? Because it says that Hillel converted the person who was converting for the wrong reasons. It says he converted him immediately. So perhaps you should have your sources checked. Okay, why Isaiah chapter 53 does not appear in the Jewish Tanakh? Isaiah 53 does appear in the Jewish Tanakh. I think what you're trying to say is that there was this notion, I think, put out this organization, One for Israel. that claimed that there's something called the forbidden chapter, which is not true. I made a whole video contradicting that. There's many books that we don't read during the Haftorah portion, like the book of Nahum. It's never read. What does that have to do with Jesus? Right? But yeah, Isaiah 53 does appear in the Bible. You're thinking of the idea that it's typically not read during the Haftorah service, which it could be read because it's not set in stone what Haftorot have to be read, what portions of the prophets have to be read on Shabbat. It's not set in stone halachically. It is set in stone if you buy an art scroll siddur. Okay, let's see. All one race until universal flood. Come on, where are the good questions at? Revelation 3, chapter 9 and 10. Please read it, family. It's for all kindred nations and tongues in Jesus' name. Okay, well, this isn't a Christian show. This is a Jewish show. For everyone on YouTube, just so you can see what they're seeing on TikTok, there's a big banner that says Judaism is better and you can become Jewish with Rabbi Asher Meza. All right, just letting them know that Judaism is better than their belief system, just to get them to talk as a tactic, sort of like picking a fight a little bit. Let's see, no answer. No answer to what? Someone says Jesus Christ is in the Torah. I know you believe that in faith. Let's see. Jesus was Jewish and his Jewish patrons had him killed. All right, guys, keep it coming. It's 10:45 here in South Florida. Let's get a good 20 minutes of dialogue before I go watch a movie on Netflix. Okay, so Adam here brings down like the sugya that says Kashim Gered LeYisrael Kesapachat, that converts are hard in Israel like a sore. So what does that mean? Of course, it says that Rav Kobo, I don't remember. It's one of the Amoraim who says it because it's not in the Mishnah. The notion that converts are hard, you have to read the commentaries to that. What does Tosfos say? Avram Ager says that this means that converts are so religious that they frustrate born Jews because they're so observant. So this notion that this only means one thing is not there. And of course, nothing there does it say to discourage converts. But it's true. Some converts are difficult on Israel, just like I would say in the vast majority of cases, most born Jews are very difficult on Israel. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Don't come at me with that Tosfos. He was a convert himself. It's true. His name was Avram Ager. Just to show you that the notion is not set in stone that everyone thought converts were difficult. As a matter of fact, it says in Pesachim Pei Zayin, it says that Rabbi Eliezer says that the reason we're in Golus, it says mamish, to gather converts. That's what it says. So you have to find a better source in the Talmud that tells us to discourage people from becoming Jewish.
All right, Ash, I have a couple of questions.
All right, go for it.
Well, not really questions. We spoke about it last time. Now, you said the best place to start would be Mishnah Torah. Where would I get a copy of that?
It's if your Hebrew is not so sharp, like Chabad.org has it all in English.
Okay. Chabad.
Yeah.
And that's Mishnah Torah.
Right. Also, Safari also has it in English. So let me respond here.
My Hebrew's not terrible.
Start off with English.
I'm still learning the language.
On Chabad, you have it with the English on one side and the Hebrew on the other, so you can compare. Although, the version and on Chabad.org is not like the best version, but it's still good. All right, so to respond to Adam Laura here, it says Judaism is indeed the best, but the best for non-Jews is to keep the 7 Noahide laws. That's actually not true. The minimum for non-Jews is to keep the 7 Noahide laws. So let me educate the world on the 7 Noahide laws here for a second. Let's see. People don't know that a Gentile is liable to death penalty for breaking any one of the Sheva mitzvot. Anyone. It says if he steals something worth less than a Sheva pruta, here, which is like a Roman coin, it says that he's chayav misa, like he's put to death, with no warning and with only one witness. So how could it be better for a Gentile to remain a Gentile? Now, clearly, Gentiles are not obligated to become Jewish. I mean, the truth is, Jews aren't obligated to remain Jewish. No one's obligated to do anything on this planet. That we do what's best for us and our families. What's best for Gentiles? Well, Jews aren't put to death for theft like Gentiles are. Again, Gentiles are put to death for breaking any of the 7 laws. It's quite impossible to even put a Jewish person to death. You know, you need what's called hasra twice, you know, like a forewarning twice. There's 2 like 2 witnesses also. It has to be done what's called, you know, b'mezid and not b'shogeg. It benefits Gentiles from a halachic perspective. And I'm talking to all the educated Jews in the room. I mean, people with some yeshiva education. They can't deny that it benefits Gentiles if they're sincere to become Jewish than to remain Gentiles in a halachic system. That's 100%. Right. So, I mean, to say that the best for a Gentile is to become a Noahide tells me that you don't know much about how Halacha functions. Okay, let's see what he responds. Okay. So it says this only applies to Eretz Yisrael as a sort of national law. Oh, it's true. Obviously, no one's put anyone to death, you know, like in exile. But assuming, as a matter of fact, the whole notion of the Sheva Mitzvot B'nai Noach only applies in Eretz Yisrael also during Yamot HaMashiach. I mean, this is what the Rambam says, that you only make a ger toshav when the Yovel year is kept, i.e. the Messianic age. And he says nowadays the only option is for people to become Jews. Now, he has the notion of what's called the Chasidei Umot Olam, which are the righteous of the nations who keep the Noahide laws. I mean, there's like different Gersiot say different things in that portion because it's like not because it's wise, but because, anyways, he does hold that a Gentile could still get married for keeping it, but he wouldn't be what's called a formal ger toshav. So people get these 2 statuses confused. I mean, the term Noahide doesn't appear in rabbinic literature. I mean, I think it was invented by Chabad. The term Noahide. The term is ger toshav by rabbinic literature. But regardless, it's so confusing that it's just easier, just on that note, to just become Jewish. Okay. So someone says, so he writes, same when a Gentile keeps Shabbat. So according to the Rambam, a Gentile could keep Shabbat fully, and he's not liable to the death penalty as long as he keeps Shabbat like Jews keep Shabbat. That's it. And the Rambam says that a Gentile could keep any one of the mitzvot he wants, as long as he keeps them for merit, just like a Jew keeps it. Because the prohibition of a Gentile keeping Shabbat on his own, it says, Akum sheshavet mita, that a Gentile who rests is liable to the death penalty. That falls under the prohibition of Gentiles inventing a religion for themselves, meaning that they would keep the Sabbath in a different way. And this is what Chazal say. It says that this means that Gentiles will keep the Sabbath from sun up to sundown, because it says, day and night you shall not rest. But Jews don't keep Shabbat from day to night. They keep it from night to day. So as long as the Gentile would keep it like a Jew keeps it, he wouldn't be what's called chayav misa. Okay, let's see. Okay, but someone says, but they're still required to keep it anytime, anywhere. But they are still required to keep it. To keep what? You're talking about the enforcement that applies to Yamot HaMashiach. Right. Well, the whole status of a ger toshav, of a Noahide, a formal Noahide, only exists during the Messianic age, which is why the person who made this notion popular was the Lubavitch Rebbe in the 60s. And even with the Brisker Rub felt that he thought that the Lubavitch Rebbe thought that he himself was Mashiach, and this is why he was pushing this whole Noahide movement, because it was regulated to Yamot HaMashiach. I mean, Chabad, even from the previous Rebbe, not the last one who died, but his father-in-law, they felt that they were living in a Messianic age because the last Lubavitcher Rebbe thought his father-in-law was Mashiach. Okay, hold on. Okay, so someone says, sorry for the disrespect earlier. Okay. Oh, that's very nice of you. All right, somebody's calling me, but... All right, guys. Talk about how the first temple was built. How was the first temple built? There's so many midrashim built on that idea. It says, what's the name of that worm? There's the worm that, of course, doesn't appear. I mean, the word appears in Tanakh, but it's translated to be this like magic worm that eats stone, because the idea was that they couldn't cut stones with iron because iron is used for war. But that's all midrashim because the Torah doesn't say that. But yeah, that's how the temple was built. I mean, it was built how it says in Tanakh it was built. Oh, there we go. Right, the Shamir worm. Yeah, but that's not in the Torah. The word Shamir, I think, appears there, but it doesn't mean a worm that eats stone. But who knows?
Hey, Asher, I watched this video on YouTube. It was called "Hanging with Hasidics." Have you seen that YouTube video?
No, never.
You ever seen it, man?
What group was
I
it?
was just watching it.
What Hasidic group was it?
It was the synagogue. He was a rabbi at the synagogue in, I think it's Brooklyn, the big one in New York.
The big
So
one.
he was like he went into like, you actually get it's like they record, they go in the synagogue. I forgot the guy's name. He was a rabbi. He had like 8 kids. It was like a 20-minute video.
That's like every rabbi.
Right, yeah. He was just... He said,
it was like probably Chabad.
Huh?
It was probably Chabad.
Yeah.
Your most Hasidic Jews... So most Hasidic Jews don't like calling Chabad Hasidic. Although, I mean, Chabad is probably like the oldest Hasidic dynasty. They just like...
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, they... I don't know. It's probably because the Chabad wives are like extra good looking. You know, like they always have like the fanciest shatels and stuff like that. Which
his wife, I'm not gonna speak on another man's wife. She was beautiful. The women are. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's a Chabad thing for some reason. I think because they're more into what's called shlichut. I mean, Chabad doesn't like using the word kiruv, but they're in outreach, so they have to look, I guess, more hip. I mean, not the guys. The guys. Well, they don't trim their beards. They sort of look like Captain Caveman. But people criticize Chabad women because of that, because they're usually like very fashion oriented. Like their shetels, like their shetelach actually look like real hair. Well, like most frum people, I mean, it looks like they have a football on their head because you see the stitches and it looks horrible. But I mean, they think. Yeah,
that got me. I didn't even know that was a wig. I was like, wow, that looks really good.
Yeah. Chabad is... I like Chabad. I'm not a fan of the Tanya at all. But I do believe they care, right? But they care about Jews, but not so much about Gentiles. But they actually, you know, I don't know. But they seem to be very happy.
My thing is just being accepted as a convert. It's just one of the things that I would have to worry about.
Look, bro. I mean, you're gonna suffer no matter where you convert to because you're black. I mean, I'm telling you.
Right.
I mean, it's not an easy road.
I've already accepted. Yeah, I've already accepted it.
All right. I mean, you're gonna have to fight through that crap. I mean, that's just the way it is. And guys who are Asian who convert is the same thing. And you know, I mean, Hispanics could get away with it because they pass for Sephardi. But right when they open their mouth, I mean. What? What?
It's just you look so different. It's just the look. I get it. Like I said,
it's not racism.
It's not my first time dealing with certain things. Like, yeah, it's not specifically. That's what's different about it. It's not racism.
It's not racism. It's called xenophobia. So xenophobia is the fear of the unknown. So the truth is, if we had more black converts, then it wouldn't be so shocking, because the average synagogue, unfortunately, is very pasty white. And when you find a synagogue in somewhat of a black neighborhood and it's like 99.9% white, that type of segregation takes effort, unfortunately. So what I try to do is mix it up. I mean, I'm trying to pack in the synagogues in Brooklyn with so many blacks and Puerto Ricans, and they'll really hate me. But that's the only way you make progress. There's no such thing as an inferior race. There are inferior cultures, and I think that Judaism is probably the most sophisticated culture that you could become a part of. With all our problems, this is why I promote Judaism, and becoming, not converting through me, but converting through your local Orthodox synagogue and having the most recognized conversion out there. But there's going to be crappy people in every religion. You're just going to have to deal with that, and they're going to expect you to be more religious and more knowledgeable than the average born Jew. But you could go in there and tear it up. I mean, go in there and make a name for yourself and build bridges, so people after you could have an easier time entering the Jewish world. Everything we're doing today as converts, it's like chaff for the fire. We're here sacrificing ourselves so in the future, when someone comes to convert, they don't have a hard time. So hopefully someone will remember our name 100 years from now. That.
Right, yeah, that's the plan. Go in there, tear it up, like you said. That's the goal, man.
That's what's up. And
that's why I try to stay on top of it as much as I can. Like I just try to stay keep trying to always learn more. The language, get as deep as I can into it.
Yeah, you could do it, bro. I mean, I think anyone, no matter your background, if you commit yourself to Torah learning, and for the world out there, I converted to Judaism. I converted 23 years ago. My advantage was that I moved to Israel quite early after I converted, and I was in yeshiva for like 5 years, and I've been in the Jewish world. That's one benefit of mine, that I've always remained amongst Jews. If you convert and you live in the middle of nowhere, you're never going to grow, right? But Israel, I mean, the best thing about living in Jerusalem is you're breathing Torah 24 hours a day, okay? Especially Shabbos, and going from Shabbos table to Shabbos table, and different Torahs and this and that. It penetrates. So I think everyone should at least, spend a few years in yeshiva in Israel. Just not that you're going to learn much in yeshiva, because the bulk of my learning I've learned outside, when you're having l'chaims, and the guys are talking about concepts that your rabbi would never talk to you about in yeshiva, right? Because it's controversial. That's the meat. But you're not going to find that in a synagogue in America that only has, one rabbi, right? You have to go to hang out with Yemenites and Bukharians, and find out that the Ben Ish Chai said you could ride a bicycle on Shabbos, and like the Tzitz Eliezer said that you could use electricity on Shabbos, and it was only the Chazon Ish who prohibited it. All these little things you're never going to learn in yeshiva. So, anyways, that's a tactic.
Yeah, but the thing is with me, because I'm reading the comments and people are saying you're on avoid converting people. Honestly, the funny thing about me is I found your page. I was already looking into converting. I found your page after I was debating some Muslims, and I got off, and you got on right behind me. And I heard you talking about, I was hearing how knowledgeable you are about it. I was just like, wow. So then I followed you. Then I started, hearing more and more about what you teach. That's what it was for me. And that's why, like I said, I tell you all the time, I was raised Christian.
Yeah. Well, people are going to belittle me.
And a lot of the things never made sense to me. Just from listening to, Trinity and all that, it never made sense to me. And and that's why I always tell you, I like what you're doing, because, listen, I was raised hardcore, and then I'm talking about 6 times a week going to church, because my mom, she sang in the choir, so she was really devout. She went to Monday prayer, Tuesday higher learning, Wednesday Bible study. My mom so I was in church a lot, and I'm hearing all this stuff. I'm like, these things don't make any sense. And I always would go back and forth with a lot of people in the church. So this has been like a lifelong thing for me.
Mm.
So I'm kind of just now getting more serious into it. I'm only 22.
Are you single?
I'm single. I'm 22. I'm young. I'm single. And I'm just and I'm falling in.
Where do you live?
I'm in New Orleans.
Oh, that's right, Tulane. Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem with New Orleans is that it's only Chabad there. I think that it may benefit you to just pick up and move to Israel right now as a non-Jew. And I've helped a lot of people when I lived in Israel convert in Israel. And there's an organization, there's one yeshiva called Machon Meir that publicizes that, yes, they specifically help converts, but all what's called Baal Tshuva yeshivas help converts from Esha Torah or Sameach. They have conversion programs. The difference is a lot of the more prestigious yeshivas don't allow you to dorm in the yeshiva if you're a convert. But if you go there, you'll find a place to stay. I mean, I'll hook you up with this guy, Nissim Black or Studemeyer, and all these guys take care of each other.
Okay.
But you have to go. I'm just thinking.
I've been thinking about that. Actually, I've actually been thinking about it. Well, I'm in school, so I was thinking about just making it out there, maybe like on the summers, because I'm really into history and like the geographical history. And that's a lot of interesting things went down in those areas, and it's just different. They say like a lot of people tell me you go to Egypt. It's a different feel. Like you can just feel it.
Right.
So that's why I want to experience things like that.
All right. And another thing, for all the converts out there, when you're a convert in America and you're looking for a wife, don't look for a wife in America. Go to Israel to find the wife. Because in America, they just throw you like divorcees and, they go Leah.
Yeah.
In Israel, the playing field is level. I'm telling you. And you as a black dude, the girls will go wild. I mean, you're like an exotic fruit. I'm not playing. There's this guy I just interviewed in Israel. His name is Mordechai, I believe Mordechai Ben Avraham, but he wrote a book called The Black Jew. And I mean, look who he's married to. And he'll tell you. I'm just telling you. The difference is there's girls who go to Israel to learn for a few years. And while they're in the seminary, they have like a sharchan or a sharchanit, and they start dating. And the thing is, they'll get engaged with you without you ever having to meet their parents, which is like a no-no in America. In America, I mean, it's ultimately about money in America. In Israel, it's not like that. So most converts, I mean, this is what I did. This is with my previous marriage, whatever, it didn't work out. But I wasn't going to tolerate the in America, if you're a convert, they feel like, I mean, no one wants to marry a convert, whatever. In Israel, they don't care. Right. So there. I mean, that's my advice for everyone.
Yeah, I've watched you. That's what's funny about it. There's YouTube videos. Like there was a guy walking through Israel. He was asking people how would they feel if they converted, and most people were like, "Let them convert. Let's do it. Let them convert." There was a number of people saying like, "Let them do it. What's wrong with?" It?
So I'll tell you that most Israelis actually agree with proselytizing. It's mainly Americans that have a big issue, especially if it's just being in Israel makes you more pragmatic, because the reality is if you had more Jews in Israel, it'd be safer for Jews, right? More Jews in the army, more Jews to whatever. All right, someone's asking if I'm an Orthodox rabbi. Yes, I'm an Orthodox rabbi. But in America, it's I don't know. I mean, Israel's still galut. I mean, you're still an exile in Israel. But in Israel, I think they realize there's strength in numbers. While in America, people, I don't know, are too Kabbalistic that they're no earthly good. Okay, fine.
Yeah, let me add this because I didn't finish what I really wanted to say, because people keep saying, "Why are you proselytizing?" Let me say this. Like I said, I was born Christian. There are many more like me that have the same. I'm talking about people that I know that think the same thing. And like you said, the work that I'm telling you, the work that you're doing is good, because I'm people that having access to someone that is knowledgeable and willing to share with you in a way to show you how it can be good for you. People need that. And like you said, Jewish people don't do that. And I'm telling you, a lot of people have the same feelings that I had.
Yeah.
They just need help exploring that, because in Christianity is different. it's like you speak against it, and in their forum, you get attacked. It's not. It's like it's crazy. It's like, say, if I don't agree with a certain ideology or a theory, you get attacked for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same way, and it's like when you get something that makes sense, because I'm telling you, a lot of things don't make sense. It really doesn't. If you sit down and you listen, it's like time out.
All right, so someone's asking in the chat. Someone's asking in the chat, what are my views on Tovia Singer? I actually posted a video on YouTube that I recorded probably a month ago on my views of Tovia Singer. I know Tovia Singer from the Old City. I mean, I spoke to him a few times because I still work for this guy named Jeff Seidel. Jeff Seidel is this guy who sets people up for Shabbos. He has a student center. So we booked him to talk to Hebrew youth students 10 years ago. I think that he's a nice guy. However, I'm against his whole shtick. I'm against counter-missionary, there's no threat, at least against religious Jews, from Christians or Christian missionaries. Okay, it's just not effective, especially in Israel. It may be effective with Jews who are not that knowledgeable, but in that case, I mean, I rather an atheistical Jew convert to Christianity than remain an atheist, because I think that kafir is worse than avodah zarah. That like atheism is worse than idolatry. And I mean, Christianity is not full idolatry, I mean, it depends. It's like borderline, but still. So I think that it's quite destructive to destroy someone's faith and not to give them a viable alternative to the faith you've destroyed. There's many Christians who have a network, an ethical network in their life, right? A place for their children to meet other ethical people, to socialize, to find a wife. And if you destroy someone's faith and you leave them with nothing, right, you've essentially created an enemy that's going to treat you worse than he would have treated you before. Because atheists hurt Jews more than Christians ever have. I mean, just look at the Soviet Union. I mean, I think Chabad knows this better than anything. The Izvestia, the Jewish communist police, how they would torture the Rebbe. Right. So, if you're going to be a counter-missionary, you better be offering Judaism in return. Because what happens when you destroy someone's faith, what you're doing is creating an atheist. And if you think we have more in common with atheists than Bible-believing Christians, I think it's silly. So someone's writing here, isn't Christianity blasphemous to the Torah? No, not necessarily. I mean, Christians that believe the Torah is done away with, that itself is a form of avodah zarah. However, atheism, someone who actively fights.
I feel like it is blasphemy.
So, look, in life, the choice is not between utopia and like things that are horrific. It's typically between what's good and what's better. Okay, it's better to be a Christian than to be an atheist. And anyone who can't make that distinction, I don't think you're aware of the power, the life-changing power the Bible has to improve lives. Okay, whether they acknowledge the source of their ethics or not, because the average Christian is ethical, even though they claim not to keep Torah laws, but they keep them anyways, right? I mean, through the example of Jesus. So
right.
I think the world would be a better place if we had more Christians and less atheists. I think the world would be a better place if we had more.
Like you said, the believing that the Torah is done away with. That's the only time I would call it blasphemous. And then other instances like, calling Jesus God, things like that.
So someone writes here. So someone writes in the chat that under Halacha, Christians aren't even deemed as monotheists. So let's not. Okay, first of all,
right, I agree.
Hold on. Oh, Halacha has nothing to say regarding Christianity. Absolutely nothing. Even though the Rambam mentioned Christianity, the Rambam is a Rishon. He's not a Tana. I mean, he's not an Amara. Christianity is not mentioned in the Talmud. It's not mentioned by Chazal. So we can't say what Chazal would have ruled Christianity as. Now, clearly a belief system that believes the Torah is done away with is problematic. Okay? But let's say a Messianic Christian, like someone who believes the Torah is intact and they have to keep Torah Shabbat Peh and Torah Shabbat B'Ktav, but they happen to believe in a Sefirot that has 3 instead of 10, right? Because the Sefirot is just as problematic. The problem is most Jews stay quiet about Kabbalistic Judaism when talking, to Christians. And there's many anti-Kabbalist, Orthodox style rabbis who called the Sefirot essentially the Trinity on steroids, right? It's worse. The Sefirot attributes reproductive organs to God. It says he has a penis and a vagina and a bunch. Most people don't know it. They'll say you're not supposed to take that literally. The authors, the Mekubalim who wrote that, took it literally. Nowadays, people are like schizophrenic. They're half Rambam and half Arizal. You can't mix. It's like oil and water. So Halacha doesn't have a final ruling about Jews who happen to believe in Jesus. It has nothing to say about Islam either, because Islam didn't exist at that time. Islam rose. But let me explain the process of Halacha, because everyone, I think I'm speaking Chinese to people here. Halacha ended with the dismantlement of the Sanhedrin. Wait, hold on. Somebody wants to come on? Oh, okay. All right. So my friend here who's making these comments is coming on. So let's make this interesting.
Like you say, Jews.
Hello, Rabbi.
Hold on, Eitan, hold on. Welcome, Krotek Machiavelli. These like TikTok handles get more wild than ever. All right, so what's up?
Hey, Rabbi. Thank you for letting me on.
Sure. Here, let me have it.
I just kind of want to discuss things with you guys. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, so.
No, it sounds like you have something to say from a halachic nature. So go for it.
Yeah, I've been really influenced with Tovia Singers. Thanks to him that I kind of shied away to Christianity, to be really honest. Not really shied away. I was already shying away from Christianity a long time ago, way before Rabbi. But thanks to Rabbi, I actually solidified the reasons on why it was great to leave Christianity. What are your thoughts on that?
For Judaism, absolutely. Right? I think Judaism is better than Christianity. For atheism, I think it's an ethical net loss.
Right. But the problem is, I see with Christianity is worshiping another god, and that is against one of the 10 commandments. I'd rather be a friend with an atheist than somebody who's worshiping another god.
Here, let's be honest. Hold on. You really believe that Christians are worshiping a different god?
Yes. They're worshiping Jesus. They're praising him.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Bowing to him.
So what's the Trinity then?
This is look,
hold on. What's the Trinity?
They don't even know. Go ahead.
So what's the Trinity? Isn't the Trinity ultimately the God of Israel?
The Trinity is a blasphemy, is what it is.
Okay, but let's be honest. Wait, hold on. Guys. We first have to be honest and then give our opinions. Okay, Christians call the Trinity essentially the God of Israel, represented in 3 different persons, but it's still one. I don't believe in the Trinity. Okay, I'm just trying to be very honest here, because Jews say the same thing with the Sefirot. When people say, I accuse Jews, of praying to the like to the Zeir Anpin, right, or to the Partsufim, and they're like, no, well, these are emanations of God. So Christians explain it the exact same way. I view the Sefirot as problematic as I view as the Trinity. Okay. I find it foolish. I find the Trinity foolish, and I find the Sefirot foolish. However, I don't find it idolatrous nor heretical. Right when you start calling something idolatrous, you mean that what you're saying is that person's life shouldn't be prolonged. That means they're essentially liable to death penalty just because they have a different understanding on the complex unity of God, when the Torah doesn't really have a gold standard on that.
Okay, can I say something? I'm going to say something about this, though.
Yeah.
Who is Jesus' father? Do we know? And when Jesus returns, and when they pray to Jesus, do the prayers go directly to the Father, or does Jesus intervene? Yeah. When you were asking for forgiveness to God, are you asking Jesus, or are you asking
No, I
Father?
got it. I asked the same question when Lubavitchers go to the Ohel, like to pray to the kever and write letters directly to the cadaver. I still consider Lubavitchers Jewish. I consider them foolish, but I hold them on the same level that I hold Messianic Jews who happen to believe that their Rebbe is an Atzmut in a goof, like the divine essence in bodily form. They're both stupid, okay? However, you have the right to be stupid in Judaism without being called an idolater or a heretic. You know why? Because heretics and idolaters are liable to death penalty. And I don't think God would want us to hurt anyone just because they have a different understanding. You know, I mean, heck, to be honest,
there's the difference between somebody who created the religion and somebody who serves it ignorantly, right? So I think it would be more blasphemous and more dealt to the death penalty for somebody who created a foreign god that gets you to worship him than.
But it's not a foreign god. Okay, so Jesus, their understanding of Jesus, and I'm not saying the average Christian is going to explain it like this, but the average sophisticated, I'm really for giving people the benefit of the doubt. They'll say that it's essentially that God embodied a man, flesh and blood, right? Basar v'dam for 33 years. And the truth is, you know, I'm being honest because I'm not trying to make any friends. I mean, I have enough friends. If you read the Torah straight through, God does embody man once in a while. I know the Rambam says when you read that, we have to understand that that only happened in a dream or a vision, but the Torah doesn't say that. Okay, so I agree with the Rambam. However, I disagree with his attempt at cancel culture. The Rambam was the first one to ever say that anyone who believes that God has a shape loses their place in the world to come. Right? He didn't have the authority to say that. And the Ravid stepped in and said, how can you say that, Rambam, when people bigger than you believe that God had a shape, right? I mean, the Tosafists, the students of Rashi, believed God had a shape. Not like mamish basar v'dam, but like a shape. So there's a book called Chovot HaLevavot from Rabbi Asher Ibn Pekuda. Like he writes there that God would not punish someone who takes statements, even anthropomorphic statements of the Bible, literally. So if someone wants to believe that God in some way, the God of Israel, right? Because it's not a foreign God, the God of Israel. I mean, I would say Islam is more, Allah is more of a foreign God than God incarnate in the New Testament. Why? Because they're saying that the God of Israel, the God who gave us the same Torah that the Christians admire as well, right? Just in some way embodied a man, right? I think it's disingenuous to call it a foreign God. It's just a different way of looking at it. Of course, the Rama would disagree with me, right? I think the Mary would agree with me.
So with the Torah, to be completely honest, I mean, God has already said it enough times that you shall not worship any stone or statue. I don't have to recite it.
Oh, for sure.
So as far as Christianity does, it is obviously against the Torah in so many respects.
Yeah, for sure. Traditional Christianity, yes. I'm talking about Messianic Judaism.
Right. That's honestly, that's what I maybe would consider myself, because I'm still, like I told you, remember I told you, Asher, I read the Stern Bible. Are you familiar with that Bible?
Oh, yeah, the Stern Bible. That's that Messianic.
Right. So it's like I have a different
I think I have one around
perspective on what was being taught. That was really why I went against.
Yo, don't tell anyone. You know, I mean, they're not gonna like you in a synagogue if they believe that. You know, I'm just looking out for you.
Yeah, I know you've told me that before.
You know, I'm very Christian friendly and Messianic friendly. However,
everyone isn't, right?
I rather people not believe in Jesus. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I keep interrupting. Isn't Messianic Judaism also kind of a huge problem, because that means you aren't expecting a Messiah and they've accepted Jesus as the Messiah? So it's the same thing with Christianity. So you're okay with these concepts?
The concept of not expecting a Messiah?
Well, they've accepted their Messiah. Yeah, they've said that the Messiah is there, so therefore Judaism is no longer needed. That is why the Torah is now called the Old Testament, because you are worshiping the old God and not the new God.
And yeah, and that's what the problem is. Like he says, with traditional Christianity, a lot of people don't even take the time to go and study where their religion came from. For example, they don't know the Holy Spirit would be considered the Ruach HaKodesh. They can't tell you these things. They've never heard the name Adonai. It's such a knowledge gap. It really is. And that's why I always clash, because it's so much, that's all it really is. It's a knowledge gap.
All right,
There's so much you have to teach that, like when I talk to someone like Asher, that's basic elementary knowledge.
So let me say something that's a little shocking here. And I think I should shock everyone at least once an hour. there's no obligation in Judaism to even believe in a Messiah, at least the coming of the Messiah. And I'll tell you why. It specifically says in the Talmud, it says that Hillel HaZaken, Hillel the elder, didn't believe that the Messiah was coming because he believed the Messiah already came. He believed that Hiskiyahu HaMelech and the age of, King Hezekiah was the Messianic age, and Hezekiah was the Messiah. That's what it says. And there's a book called Sefer HaIkarim by Rabbi Yosef Albo, and he brings down this point because he's in some way attacking the Rambam's Yud Gimel Karamuna, the 13 Principles of Faith, that does say that you have to believe in the Messiah, saying, how could, let's say, Hillel HaZaken, it's not the same Hillel, from Hillel and Shammai, this is an Amara, that how could he be considered a kosher or anything if he himself didn't believe in the Messiah? So he is making the point that you don't have to believe in a Messiah or in a coming Messiah in Judaism to be kosher. So
okay, but what about the temples? Who are the Jews waiting for then? Exactly. If there is no concept of a Messiah, and
I'm not saying there's no concept of the Messiah.
Archetypes, and Jews aren't waiting for a Messiah. Then
I'm not saying
I feel like that's erroneous.
I'm not saying there's no concept of the Messiah in Judaism. The vast majority of Jews believe in the coming of a Messiah. However, what does the Messiah have to do with building a temple?
Because if their temple will be raised when the Messiah is here.
There's different opinions. But according to Rashi, it's going to be, I'm just going to fall down from the sky. According to the Rambam, the Messiah is going to institute, or if the Messiah helps, or if the potential Messiah helps to rebuild the temple, then he's like Mashiach Vadai, it says. Like he's like the true Messiah. There's different opinions on the temple be built from a Torah perspective. We have a mitzvah to build a Mishkan, and it has nothing to do with a king. As a matter of fact, having a king in the Torah, which is what the Rambam ties having a Messiah to, right, is really what's called a reshut. It's an allowance. You don't need a king, right? There's no obligation to have a king, although the Rambam would disagree with me. He, for some reason, reads like it's an obligation. But the Torah says that if you want a king, you shall pick the one I elect, or vice versa. So it seems like you don't need a king to build a temple.
But that's considering that you think that Messiah would be a king, or considering that the Messiah is a king. We're not. I'm not sure that the Messiah is going to be a king, but there is going to be a Messiah.
I'm pretty sure It's pretty monolithic by every Orthodox Jew that the Messiah is a king. Melech HaMashiach. Yechi Adonenu, Morenu Ve'Rabbeinu, Melech HaMashiach. Le'olam va'ed. Yeah, it's pretty understood. Yeah, he's a king. I mean, Jesus wasn't a king. I guess king of the Jews. I don't know.
Why hasn't the temple been rebuilt?
Because Jews don't have their act together. That's why.
Do you think Israel was raised by God? Like, was it? Because there was a lot of discussions of whether or not Israel was commanded by God and not by. It was commanded by men and not by God.
You mean the state of Israel?
Yeah.
I believe the state of Israel, as it exists today, that God has no part in it. Right? I mean, it was created by a bunch of Bolsheviks. And it's still left-wing and extremely anti-religious. Although,
so that's probably one of the reasons why the temple has been raised, is because Israel hasn't been founded yet.
Oh, obviously, yeah. No, the average Haredi approach, like Orthodox approach to the state of Israel, is that it's still exile. I mean, it's not the redemption. People who are what's called Dati Leumi, like Rav Kook, and they created what's called the Tefillah LeMedina, the prayer for the state of Israel that Zionists utter every Shabbat, and it says that the state of Israel is the first flourishings of the Messianic age. I don't believe that. I mean, I think it's antithetical to the Torah, and that we could in some way force God's hand. I mean, he exiles us for breaking Torah, and it's like Mamish the atheist who are going to like kickstart the Geula. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, not just to me. This is the traditional Haredi approach, the traditional non-Zionist approach. I'm not saying anti-Zionist. Just, I mean, the average Haredi Jew, the average Orthodox Jew is what's called non-Zionist, like at least Black Hat Orthodox Jew. They're not anti-Zionist.
Right. Okay.
But where do you live, Protek?
I'm sorry?
What state do you live in?
I'm in Canada.
Toronto?
I'm in Ottawa.
Okay, cool.
Canada's beautiful.
Yeah, some parts. Some parts,
Have
you
you
know.
ever been to
I was going to say the same.
Banff? Banff?
Yeah, Banff.
Yeah, have you been?
It's near Toronto, I think.
Man, it's
in Ontario.
It's beautiful. It's so beautiful.
I own land in this little town called it's called New Brunswick. I don't know. I bought it like 10 years ago on eBay, and I was thinking of building a cabin there, and I flew out there to check it out. Well, so New Brunswick is right on the border of Maine and Canada, right there. And then when I flew into the airport, they didn't have the car I ordered, so they upgraded me to like a Cadillac. So you have a Spanish guy driving through this like rednecky area of Maine going into Canada. So of course they thought I was a drug dealer. There's a lot of people who like plant drugs there and then bring it into the States. So they tore my car apart. They went through my phone, and I'm like, I don't give you the right to go through my phone. And they're like, well, like, we don't have to let you into Canada either. I'm like, all right, go to the phone. So then I almost missed my flight. I saw the place, and on the way back, the Americans did the same thing. They took out the seat cushions. They went through my phone. And I never had this experience crossing the border through Vancouver. Vancouver's amazing. I mean, I spent Pesach there in the Semak Tzedek synagogue. It's beautiful, beautiful. I was going to move to Seattle, and I wanted to spend Pesach there. And Seattle is a crappy place. It's not pretty, in Seward Park. So then I just drove up 2 hours and a half to Vancouver, which is like day and night. It doesn't compare to Seattle. But whatever. Yeah, I mean, screw the community in Seattle. Because they, in some way, banded together to keep me out of the community also. Because they don't like me. Anyways, fine.
Canada's laws and some of our actually some of what's going on here in Canada, things are not. Canada just doesn't feel like Canada anymore.
Yeah.
So and even our border crossing, everything that's been happening recently.
Yeah, well, you got that really beta Trudeau there. Well, at least you produced Jordan Peterson. I mean, you did something good for the world.
Oh yeah, Jordan is amazing.
Yeah, well, Jordan Peterson's coming to Florida in a week and a half. On Thursday, March 9th. I think I'm going to go see him. I don't know. Anyways, I just threw that out
there. You like Jordan Peterson?
I encourage people to listen to Jordan Peterson.
How do you feel about his Christianity?
Are you kidding? I mean, I love Christians. I mean, I think Christianity is such an ethical force on this planet. And I'll tell you, even Maimonides found redeemable qualities within Islam and Christianity. And within atheism, he found none. So, I mean, it shows what's better.
Could you imagine if they believed that Torah was alive today? Could you imagine?
Oh, you mean with the amount of Christians? I feel the same way about Indians.
Yes. You know how many billions, man?
All right. I think it's easier to convert Indians to Judaism. You have 1.3 billion Hindus there. And this is why I go back every year, because I have this vision. And I think people from India are so in tune with God, right? I mean, most of them with the wrong God, but they're just like docile, spiritually hungry people. And they're extremely ethical. This is going to be the future. There's going to be more religious Jews in India than in Israel. And then it's like, forget about Oman for Rosh Hashanah, Delhi for Rosh Hashanah, or Tamil Nadu for Rosh Hashanah, right? Spicier food. I mean, everyone will probably get sick though, but whatever. I mean, you work on your immune system.
Oh, no, I'm from New Orleans. We love it.
Oh, that's spicy food. That's right.
I need it.
Guarantee. All right.
Yeah.
Next topic,
we just
guys.
had Mardi Gras, man.
Oh, that's right. All the carnivals. I mean, Colombia just had
It
carnival.
It was crazy.
All right. What's next? Let's see. Where are the haters at? I'm telling you. I mean, it's like
tonight's a good night.
It takes a thug, to do what I do, because the average person would have quit doing this. I mean, I've been doing this for probably over 18 years, and I've gotten so much hatred. I've been kicked out of synagogues, and I just feel like, like the more they push, the more I push back. I just want. It's like, I mean, it's not even fun if like people don't insult me anymore. Hold on, someone just called me. But I just canceled.
The way that you're kind of viewing Christianity and the Messianic, as far as I understand it, you're not totally bought into the whole Messianic Messiah or into the whole Christianity is different. Sorry, I can hear myself. It's bothering me.
Oh, I hear you. So I used to be a counter-missionary, and I've debated Michael Brown 5 times. I've debated Yitzhak Shapiro. I mean, I debated all the big shots.
God, Michael Brown.
Yeah, I'm just go on my channel on YouTube or on TorahJudaism.org. There's a debates tab, and I have over almost 200 debates with Christians, Muslims, even Jews. I've stopped being a counter-missionary. I think my time is better spent trying to get Christians to become Torah observant. I don't really care who you think the Messiah is. Ultimately, I don't think it changes anything. It changes. I mean, no law is going to change, right? How you keep one mitzvah doesn't change. Whether you believe God is a complex unity, whether you believe He's one, whether you believe there's 10 emanations, it's not going to change how you keep any of the mitzvot. So my goal is to make people more ethical. The truth is, it's sort of a tactic, right? The more Torah observant and the more Torah they study, I think they'll hop out of Christianity. But even if they don't, I mean, sometimes I'm glad that Meshachistim exist.
So some Christians don't even care about Jews, though. They think that Jews are obviously mistaken and they don't know their own Bible. Jesus is now the God. And I think that is the major problems with Christianity.
Yeah. So that's why I'm trying to make them more Jewish conscious. Yeah, I'm trying to make Christians Torah observant. And when I say Torah, I mean oral law and written law. And then that's it. I don't think, I think we're wasting our time on this war against the New Testament. Judaism has sillier books, more dangerous books in the New Testament. I mean, I consider the works of the Arizal and the Zohar and the Tanya a lot more destructive than what you could pack into the 27 books of the New Testament, honestly. Right? I mean, a lot more destructive. I mean, the notion that the souls of Gentiles come from the Sitra Achra and the Young Klipot and, like Chelek Elokam Imal Mamish, like these are destructive ideas that Jews are superior inherently. Honestly, I mean, Christianity has like some funky things to say about the unity of God, and that's it. Compared to the Kabbalah, like weird things, Midrashim talking about, how like the Avos created, like golems, just to have sex with them. Come on. I mean, I strive to be painfully honest.
Well, that's not really it. Actually, they also believe that they don't have to keep kosher.
That's right. I'm trying to make them more Torah observant. That would include, trust me, it's a package. You know what I mean? It would include kosher and like taharas of mishpacha.
They love bacon.
All right. So we have something called fake and bacon in Judaism. So fake and bacon is.
Oh yeah, but they have lamb bacon, man. You should order it. Lamb bacon.
Turkey bacon is good. I mean, it's less fatty.
Turkey bacon is good.
No, I get it. I mean, I was gonna go to the Philippines, but I'm thinking, how am I gonna get a Filipino to stop eating pork? Because they love their pork in the Philippines.
Yeah, man. A lot of my people are the same way.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, pork is delicious. I mean, I grew up eating pork. It's yummy.
It is exactly the same way. Exactly.
I'm Colombian. My family's from Colombia. I'm born in New Jersey, but like I have a Puerto Rican uncle that every Christmas Eve he would roast the whole pig all day, and when you cut into that meat, that crispy pork, it's nothing like it. Nothing like it. I'm telling you. And I'm a hunter also. I mean, I've eaten venison and come on.
Can you please stop? You know how long it took me to stop?
That's it. I mean, your mouth's watering right now.
Man, no, listen, this is a true story. So I was reading, is it the first or second Maccabees? And there was a story about the family, the family that refused to eat swine. Have you read that one?
What, to sacrifice a pig, right?
No, I think they wanted them to eat it.
Okay.
It might have been the sacrifice. I haven't read it. It was a few months ago. But have you read?
Yeah, yeah. It's been a while. Someone's asking like if I studied at yeshiva. Yeah, I learned in Aisha Torah like for a few years, and I learned in Or Sameach and many other yeshivas in Israel. I mean, I lived in Yeshuv for like 5 years, and there was a yeshiva there also, like in Kohav Shachar.
You said Israel 5 years?
Yeah.
So, for example, like in my city, I don't have a lot of synagogues or places that I could commune with other Jews, and I can't just go up and convert with the community over here. I don't think they would readily accept me. What would be your advice to somebody who is living here in North America, somewhere where it might be difficult to commune with other Jews?
I perform conversions for free every month. However, I don't encourage people to come to my place to convert because it's only for people who want to start their own community. People should try to get the best conversion out there, recognized with the state of Israel and all that stuff. The truth is, my conversions are just as halachic as anyone. Halachic in the sense that they're done according to halacha. But conversions have become politicized. So I get it, right? I mean, you have to do what's good for you. You don't have to convert to Judaism to keep Torah, okay? You can learn as much Torah as you want. Keep every command, even Shabbat, right? I mentioned before, when it says Akum Sheshar Chayet Mita, it doesn't mean that a Gentile can't keep Shabbat. It means that a Gentile can keep it in a different way than Jews keep it. You can keep any law you want as long as it's kept like the way Jews keep it. It's interesting. This is somewhat of a controversial idea, but you can, yes, I give a certificate. I mean, someone wrote, if I give a certificate, yeah. You can technically be in a covenant with God and not be halachically Jewish. And you can be halachically Jewish and not be in a covenant with God, right? I mean, Larry David, Jerry Seinfeld, Karl Marx, Trotsky, I don't know, Rosa Luxemburg, Gloria Steinem, right? Atheistical Jews are not in a covenant with God, although they're halachically Jewish. If someone accepts Torah the way the Hebrews and the Erev Rav accepted Torah on Mount Sinai, they would have the status of those people, i.e., they would be in a covenant with God as well. So you could technically commit yourself to keeping Torah laws and not be halakhically Jewish, right? I mean, there's no court here to put anyone to death or anything. So I consider you spiritual Israel right now.
Well, let me ask you this, because I was on Wikipedia and I was just reading it, and I had to type it as the hyperlinks, and it said rabbinic Judaism. So is there a difference between Judaism and rabbinic Judaism?
Well, not to me there isn't, because I'm an Orthodox Jew. So
okay,
but the word, oral law, Jewish law, rabbinic law, it's all the same. The difference is written law, right? Oral law, Jewish law, and what did I say? Rabbinic, oral, and Jewish. It's the same law. It's all considered Torah Shabbat Peh, meaning it's the roots of it come from the Sanhedrin. And this is not my. This is what the Rambam writes. Based on a Gadol Sheber Yerushalayim Hem Iker Torah Shabbat Peh. That the source of the oral law is the Beit Din HaGadol, the Sanhedrin that rules from on top of the Temple Mount. So that's what rabbinic Judaism is, essentially. The consensus developed by the court, by the judges, on how we keep essentially ceremonial laws in the land that doesn't clearly appear in the Torah. Okay.
So do you think, like, if you were to convert, for example, you were to convert me and I were to get your certificate, and I would want to commune with other Jews or a synagogue here in my city so I can keep the commandments much better and have somebody to kind of help me out through it, do you think that they would accept the certificate that you would give me?
It depends. Around 50% of the communities of the people that we convert are accepted. Most small communities, if someone needs a minyan, they don't care. The problem is with larger communities. The larger communities, because they're not hurting for a minyan, they typically rely with the Rabbanut standards of who they believe could perform a conversion. You're telling me a Chabad in like Montana who's like hurting for a 10th man, and an Orthodox rabbi converted that man, but that Orthodox rabbi is not on the Rabbanut's list, where they're not going to count the guy that when they have to say Kaddish, of course they're going to count him. So it's larger synagogues that are a bit affluent and they're sort of bored with membership that they'll make it difficult for people to join. But small communities are hurting for members. So that's pretty much it.
I see.
There's another option. It's not really the route I encourage much, but there's conservative Judaism. There's conservative Judaism that are a bit more welcoming And the conservative movement, apart from allowing people to drive to the locus, like to their closest synagogue on Shabbat, they don't really violate anything regarding Jewish law, right? At least according to the tenets of conservative Judaism. I'm not saying what the average conservative Jew does, but as a conservative Jew, you're supposed to keep kosher. You're supposed to, keep all the laws. Not having a mechitza, that's not part of halacha. That's more like a minhag, like a custom. But yeah, because they don't have a mechitza, like a separation. Okay, someone asked a question. Last question: do you need to take a drop of blood again? If you convert, there's really what's called a machloket on this, on whether you have to do what's called hatafas dam. So hatafas dam, or hatafas dam bris, it's they take a drop of blood from the member if you're already circumcised to elevate your previous circumcision. Yes, to convert you have to be circumcised, but people typically, rabbis don't, or like moils don't circumcise adults. Typically, you typically go to a doctor to get circumcised, and then you do what's called hatafat dam brit, and they take a little drop of blood. However, there's a debate in the Talmud if that's even necessary. So it depends. I mean, if someone has a real big deal with it, I'll skip it.
I just feel like you gotta be serious.
Yeah, well, I mean, someone's gonna be poking your Johnson. You better be. Okay, someone says, I am a goy. I could never be a real oive. Okay, you sound like a dummy. Okay, yeah.
So you have to circumcise if you convert.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a given.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
I heard that
for sure.
when I first looked into it, yeah.
Unless you're a woman.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking into this for months. Months and months. I'm talking about I do more day I need. I really try to do as much as I can. But it's different than when you're actually around people. Like, because I went to a kosher store. Like, it's like a kosher, like, deli shop. And it's like a mini mart. It's like a little mini grocery store. And you like, some Jewish people in there. They're like, wow, these are real Jewish people. Like, in real life.
Yeah, don't start worshiping Jewish people. We're all as equally special as we are equally worthless. We distinguish ourselves individually by our deeds. There's some nice Jews and some crappy Jews. Yeah, don't over romanticize the Jews, because you're going to be let down.
After I was talking and getting to know people. I was like, wow, these are people that actually live this lifestyle that I want to live. It was just like, wow.
All right.
It was like, it made me want to go after it more.
So this is something that's a bit more controversial. But I guess I'll say it anyways. As like you being a black individual, I think it'd be better off if you would convert Ashkenazi than Sephardic. There's a misconception, especially amongst Hispanics, that they're going to be welcomed amongst Sephardi Jews just because they happen to have, because they, as Hispanic converts, know Spanish. Sephardic Jews nowadays are not really Sephardic, meaning you're not speaking Ladino and they don't come from Spain. The average Sephardic Jew is Israeli, and they're a bit cliquish if you don't know Hebrew fluently. And the only groups that don't accept converts nowadays come from the Sephardic world, from the Mizrahi North African world as well. And they're
well, I'm gonna do my ancestry, and then I'm gonna do my African ancestry, because I was told that I could be from the area.
All right. Okay.
My family has
Here's a question though. Like, do you need to convert to Judaism to enter heaven?
So I don't think we're set on the notion that a heaven sort of exists, right? I believe in an afterlife, but the Torah doesn't command me to believe in one. I understand that it's part of, again, the 13 principles of Maimonides, that we believe in reward and punishment. The way it's typically taught, mainly by the Rambam. So the Rambam writes in Hilchos Malachim, he says that the Chesidei Umat Olam, the righteous of the nations, will get a Helek Olam Haba, will get a place in the world to come. This is probably the consensus about amongst most Jews in the world, although the Talmud is split down the middle. Beit Shammai, i.e. Rabbi Eliezer, held that Gentiles do not get a share in the world to come, while like Hillel, Rabbi Yehuda, I think Rabbi Yehoshua, held that they do. So it's a debate. But the average Jew nowadays believes that God will allow righteous Gentiles into the world to come.
If I'm not Jew, aren't I under the law, the Noahide law?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have to keep kosher under the Noahide law?
No. Although there's a mitzvah of not doing what's called Ever Minachai, like eating the limb of a living animal, which no one does now anyway. So I wouldn't. Well, that's not true. I mean, Asians do a lot of weird things, but in America, it's not very prevalent.
What is the afterlife for Judaism exactly? I'm not sorry.
Nobody knows.
What is the afterlife?
Nobody. There's so many different opinions. There's one opinion I heard that it's like hell and heaven is the same place. It's like hell is one room, heaven's in the other one. There's a big banquet, right? But everyone, what do they say? Everyone has like planks attached to their arms, So the people in hell have all this food, but they can't feed each other. But the people in heaven are just doing that. I mean, they're feeding each other instead of just feeding themselves. There's so much written on it, but it's all creative writing because the Torah doesn't say. The Torah doesn't talk about an afterlife.
Right. Isn't it essentially that the fact that there is no Satan, no devil, really because God is the creator of good and evil, so that there is no hell, maybe just a purgatory?
Oh, that is not what the Talmud says. I mean, I may agree with you, and Maimonides may agree with you also, because he also didn't believe in demons. But rabbinical literature is full of demons and Christian concepts of Satan, of Satan not just working for God, but in some way fighting against God. There's many midrashim like this. Also, Samael, Kabbalah teaches there's someone called the king of the demons, Samael. There's something called the Dibuk, and much, much later Kabbalah. So Kabbalah is just as problematic as...
So what about angels? Are there angels?
Yeah, well, the Torah says that a malach, an angel, exists. It literally means messenger. In the Torah, it seems that angel is always messenger because kruvim, like cherubs, aren't necessarily angels, although Maimonides classifies them as a form of angel. That's because in the prophets, they're classified as angels, but not in the Torah. The Torah doesn't...
So do you think...
Does Messiah... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask, doesn't Mashiach also translate to messenger?
No.
Oh, God? No. Okay.
Mashiach comes from the word mashach, which means to anoint. So it literally means someone who's anointed with oil. I mean, the high priest was anointed. I mean, he was the type of Mashiach. It later, I guess in Isaiah, when talking about Cyrus, it also means like symbolically, poetically, someone that God in some way appoints. Because it called Cyrus.
Okay, I've listened a lot to Tovia, and I really like him. And here's the thing, though. He's very adamant on the Messianic bloodlines being sacred, coming from David and Solomon, that would arise a Messiah, correct?
No, it's correct that he teaches that. Right? I mean, I'm not so convinced of it. I mean, Maimonides taught it. Maimonides taught that Mashiach is not just from David, but also from Solomon.
But that would make meaning to the anointed one, which is the why Jesus is a problem, because he's not the anointed one and chosen.
Right. No, I'm not. I don't believe in Jesus. I don't believe it. I mean, you're right. I mean, when was you? I guess you could say when, who's like the prostitute who broke the vial of oil and anointed him with oil. I mean, maybe she anointed him. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to give some sort of Christian response to it. But yeah, Jesus wasn't anointed.
I want to ask you a question. So, Asher, do you take the story of Adam and Eve literally? Do you think it was Do you think it?
I love that question. I was thinking about asking that earlier. That's a great question.
I take what appears in the Torah literally.
Okay, I do as well.
It's not very prevalent in the Jewish world.
A baseline.
in the Haredi world, it is. I mean, for example, the Lubavitcher
Right.
Rebbe believed in a 6-day creation, right? God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh. I believe that as well. For some reason, modern day Jews have become very like Gerald Schroeder-ish. You know, they believe that there's this MIT professor, also he teaches an ancient Torah in Israel, that believes that every day of creation is like 1 billion years or something like that. I've never bought into that. I mean, I think,
Yes.
hey, look, if
Yes,
you're not going to take
I
those
also
portions of
wanna-
the Torah literally,
Go ahead.
if you're going to take those portions of the Torah literally, what are you going to do when you get to like Mount Sinai? I mean, you're going to take that figuratively also, right? I mean, I believe it in faith.
No, I'm. Well, yeah, that's the thing. I believe it literally, and I was asking that to ask another question. So, do you also believe? I want to say, do you believe that man wasn't meant to die? If Adam and Eve don't eat the fruit, do we die?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I know what it says. I'm not sure. I mean, it says that the day you eat of it, you will surely die. I don't know what that means. I guess that you will eventually die because they didn't die that day.
But it could be poetic. That could be
Yeah,
poetic.
I don't think about those things honestly.
Symbolic, maybe. I think it's symbolic.
It's not.
I understand. To me, it could mean different. It could mean different things. It could mean different meanings.
Yeah, I try to make the world a better place. I mean, for me, the reason God is good is because God's ethical, and He gave us an ethical standard to aspire to. In terms of like metaphysics in the Bible, they don't impress me. I don't find a use for them. There's many people who write books on it, but I don't. I mean, I care more about how people behave. I mean, I'm not saying that it's bad to care about it. I just personally don't. I mean, I want to see.
My question is who is the serpent in the garden, and who is the entity that speaks to God in the book of Job?
Oh, well, I mean, in the book of Job, it says it's Hasatan, right? But the question is, if that even happened. I mean, Maimonides says it didn't. I think the Venegon also says it didn't. I mean, it's kind of like just like a mushal, like a parable. I think it's a very problematic book. It shouldn't be included in Tanakh. I mean, but nobody knows who wrote it. Nobody knows when it was written. Like, we don't know like if it was written before the Torah was given or after the Torah was given. It was written by a Jew or not. I think honestly, it was a bit irresponsible to just throw it in there. And I think Jews were of this opinion about a lot of books. It says this in the Talmud. And the Talmud says that Beit Shammai never accepted Megillas Esther. So the book of Esther was never accepted by by half of who we call Chazal. Now, that doesn't mean it didn't read the Megillah. I mean, that was part of the Halacha. But in terms of books, but they would call them Sfarim that were mi tamei yadayim, like books that would impurify your hands. But the notion of divinely inspired scripture doesn't exist in the Jewish world outside of the Torah.
The serpent?
So I would say the vast majority of people who talk about it say like it's the evil inclination. But who knows? I mean, who knows?
I wasn't really asking it to go down that avenue. I was really just trying to see if was man supposed to be eternal.
Well, to answer, like a few people here in the chat who are talking about there's people in the chat talking about who Satan was in the book of Job. I get it, whether he got permission to test Job, but I think it's the stupidest story. And it makes God look backward and primitive, right? That he's in some way going to destroy someone's family and their whole livelihood. I mean, just on a bet. The Torah is the word of God. That's what the Torah says. That the instructions within the Torah, which is actually what the Torah is, right? I mean, Torah means instruction. So what we colloquially call the Torah nowadays is not what they referred to in the Torah, right? The Torah has a festival called Hakel, that every 7 years you have to read the book of the law in front of everybody. Now, that statement appears before the Torah was closed, the Torah we have nowadays. So clearly the Torah back then meant like Sefer HaMitzvot, the book of laws, not what we call Torah. So that is what is the word of God. The books of the prophets, the books of the writings are there to bring you back and to amplify the word of God. They're not the word of God. So they're books that give you a timeline and an image of the life and times of those prophets and how God acted and reacted throughout history, but that doesn't mean that's the word of God. So we have to separate from this Christian way of thinking. A Christian will quote the book of Amos as reverently as they would quote the book of Exodus. That's very problematic. Karaites do the same thing. And some silly Jews do the same thing also. A prophet...
that's one of the first things you taught me.
Yeah. A prophet can add anything new to the Torah. Nothing. It says in Deuteronomy chapter 12 and 13 that if a prophet adds anything new, you take him out and stone him. But for some reason, people walk around, quoting the book of Isaiah like if it, it's like a book of commandments. Yeah. So I understand there's some statements in there because it's because of the poetry, the hyperbole, the symbolism. You could think they're talking about something else, but if you realize, no, they can't even add anything new, that means you have to think a second time, read it again, and read it in a way that it doesn't contradict the Torah, right? Because nowadays, that's the birth of Christianity. The birth of Christianity and Islam is people building religion and dogma off of the hyperbolic statements in the prophets. Instead of saying, no, the job of the prophet, that's what it says in Deuteronomy chapter 18, that when Israel begins to emulate the nations of the world, that God will raise up for them prophets, right? Isaiah, Jeremiah, and on. To bring them back. That means God raises prophets when Israel is screwing up. Why would God raise up a prophet? And the words that's uttered by the prophet has nothing to do with the generation that God sent them to, supposedly, because now we read the prophets like an almanac of things to come in the future. But God sent them to a specific generation, right? So you're telling me that generation is like, what the heck is Jeremiah talking about, right? What's this new covenant? I have an explanation for it. But that's not what Christians believe, right? The new covenant, what's the new covenant? Every time Israel goes into exile, God creates a new covenant because right when you go into exile, you've broken the old covenant. That's what it means, right? But we shouldn't read the books of the prophets as an almanac of things to come. They're only there to point back to the Torah. And books like Daniel really should never have been included because they've hurt the Jewish people more than anything, right? Because no one knows what the heck it's talking about. So the truth is, there's nothing wrong with it existing as long as you read it correctly. Meaning, don't build anything off of these books. These books were sanctioned. Okay, the story, and this is not so accurate, but tradition teaches us that the reason we have books of the prophets is because during the time of the Maccabees, the Syrian Greeks outlawed the study of Torah. So the rabbis unleashed these books across Israel to have something to study that would align with the Parsha. Okay, fine. Now, the problem with that is people began to kind of elevate the prophet to the level of the Torah. This is why.
So who wrote it? Who wrote the books?
Oh, it says specifically in a Tosefta that it was the court of Hezekiah Melech, of Hezekiah the king, who wrote the books of the prophets. Now, I don't know how accurate this Tosefta is. It might be some sort of medrash or something, but it shows that we didn't walk around thinking that it fell out from heaven. Heck, even King David didn't write the whole book of Psalms. We don't even know who wrote the vast majority of the Psalms. And there's people who are, I guess, when they're looking for shidduch, they'll go up to the kotel for 40 days and they'll just recite Tehillim the whole time, right? And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, as long as you don't consider it like
Solomon in Proverbs.
It's somewhat good advice. There's bad advice there also, to the point that the rabbis did not want to include Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, into the canon because of the problems in it, and they didn't want to include. Okay, but the Talmud says
the issue is the issue that you're having is people take it as the word of God, so they don't want to question it. Like, oh no, well, it says this. We just have to stop and think, like you said. No, it just was something a man sat down and wrote.
Okay, so it says in the Talmud that they weren't going to include Shir Hashirim, which is a Song of Solomon, Kohelet, which is Ecclesiastes, Ezekiel, Sefer Yehezkel. They weren't going to include it in the canon because they found too many errors within it. And it was Rabbi Akiva, one rabbi, who argued for the sake of these books, which tells you that even in the time of Rabbi Akiva, there wasn't a complete canonization of these books. Fine.
Wow.
If you understand it from that perspective, how can you walk around saying it's the word of God if the rabbis in the Talmud are debating what books to include and what books to exclude, right? They elevated these books. That means they sanctioned them for books that are worthy of study, i.e. they put in Judaism, it's called like haskama. what's another word for it? Well, anyways, a haskama is when a rabbi like signs his name in front of a book and endorses it as a book that's worth studying. That's essentially what Tanakh was, or Nach was, right? However, come Christianity, and they didn't know anything about Judaism or how the Judeo system functioned, so they just elevated it all as the word of God. I mean, Christians elevated
that's literally what I was just about to add. They literally don't even. That's why it ties back to what I was saying earlier. They didn't stop to go back to the original religion and see what goes on with what you read.
What's actually silly is that the letters of Paul, which a lot of them, I mean, they contain shout outs, meaning you have Paul saying, you know, say hi to Bobby, say hi to Billy, you know, say hi to Denzel. All right. He never thought that this one day would be considered divinely inspired text. People quote the introduction to the letters of Paul as reverently as they quote the book of Deuteronomy.
Exactly.
Isn't that a huge dumbification of our religion? You know? Now,
yes.
I'm not saying Paul is bad. I mean, I don't believe in the New Testament, you know, but why can't you just view Paul how we view the books of our rabbis? We have so many books that we elevate. Heck, if a Jewish book falls on the floor, you know, from the Ramchal of the Arizal, we pick it up. Most Jews will even kiss it and put it out there, but we won't call it divinely inspired. So you can respect something.
Paul denied his Judaism to become Christian. That, I think, would be the major problem to include anything that has Paul anything to say.
No, I get it.
Paul created Christianity.
I'm just being political here. I mean, I'm not a Christian, you know, but I'm just saying that a Christian could view Paul just like a commentator instead of elevating, you know, I mean, they're driving out demons with like the first chapters of Galatians or something, you know. It's I mean, not that I believe in demons, but I'm just telling you that we have to rethink religion, because we make religion look stupid, like just by not thinking. And we really have to kind of mute people misrepresenting our belief system, especially mute the people who call me names. I mean, just because I let people know of what's going on.
That's all I want. I just want people to stop and think.
Yeah, no. Anyways. All right. Let's see who wants to come on here. Okay, there you go. You're on.
Hey guys.
With my hands, like Jesus said, I'm gonna dance. Hi. Oh, that's right. You were gonna stay quiet. Okay. You don't have to. You could talk.
I know. I get, like, especially when it's stuff I don't know. Like, when I get questions, I kind of will start going, you know.
Okay. Got it. All right.
But I'll really go sometimes. So
let's keep it.
I don't know. It takes people talking to ask questions, I feel like.
Guys, I encourage everyone to, like, tag my haters on this, like, on this live. Always tag my haters. Anyone who talks crap about me, say, look, if you're gonna talk crap about Asher, at least have a dialogue with him. I mean, I'll talk to anyone, you know. I mean, unless they're very jerky, and then I'll just have to let them go.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of things you said is probably really controversial to probably some hardcore Orthodox Jews. They would definitely not accept some of the things you said.
No, right. Well, they don't have to accept it, but they at least have to explain why they don't accept it. And if the explanation always begins with, well, that's not what we do, then, I mean, it shows that you're dealing with a religious beta male. I mean, you have to give a reason.
People learn more if they come and kind of engage with you. I feel like it teaches me more, especially if people aren't being super angry about it and it's because they are inspired.
But the problem I have with bad teachers,
he says, he can show you where it is.
Yes.
Yeah. Look, the problem I have with bad teachers
that's why I listen to
is that when they engage in monologues, that means they'll give you one rendition of the way it is, and they don't allow you to ask questions, at least specifically on anything they taught. And if they do, they'll just say, well, the reason I taught it is because that's how my rabbi taught it to me. And that's the wrong answer. So you have to be able to articulate, why you believe what you believe, right? And if you say, look, I don't know enough. Yeah. If you say that you don't know enough, and like you read it in some Feldheim or ArtScore book, then say that, you know. But if you say that, like, you can't criticize other people and call them heretics and a fake rabbi, and, you know, like, that's what they say, that I'm fake. I don't care if people call me rabbi. I mean, I don't do this for the fame. Okay. I mean, I have smicha, but I don't, you know, call me Asher. Like, I don't really care about the title.
Like, for example, the proselytizing. Like, a lot of people are quite, like, even I was wondering, you know, isn't it like something that Judaism doesn't do is proselytize?
So Jews used to proselytize. Jews recently don't proselytize because of an exile mindset. So someone's asking a question before I lose this question. It says, what's my take on Glatt Kosher? I think Glatt Kosher is a mafia. I guess most people don't know that I used to work for Rabashkin. I don't know if Rabashkin still exists, you know, but I was there when, I mean, I spent Shabbos with Shalom Rabashkin, and I was in, you know, with Gittel Goldman and agri-processors and all that stuff, you know, so I have the insight, at least in the Ashkenazi world, of Glatt and the mafia that it's become. I mean, now they have Glatt kosher chicken and Glatt kosher pickles, and it's all like a balagan. So Glatt kosher for Ashkenazim does not exist. Why? Because according to Ashkenazim, if meat is kosher, it's automatically glatt, 100%. Glatt means smooth, and like in Hebrew, the word is halak. And according to the Ramah and to the Mapa, and, you know, like the Ashkenazi in their signing of Shulchan Aruch, if you have lungs that have a lesion on it, what's called the sircha, and you could peel the lesion off and it doesn't perforate the lung, it's still glatt kosher. For Sephardim, at least according to like the with the Beit Yosef, that's not allowed. All right, but the vast majority of Jews in America aren't Sephardi; they're Ashkenazi. The vast majority of people we kosher in America are not Sephardi; they're Ashkenazi. So that means all Ashkenazi meat is glatt, all of it. From an Ashkenazi, even the Rambam teaches like this, you know. But for some reason, the Beit Yosef had this chumrah that, I mean, he ran with. So that means that Hebrew national is glatt kosher, 100%, at least 100% in the Ashkenazi world. So anyone who says I don't need Hebrew National, and first of all, I mean, Hebrew National hot dogs are the freaking bomb. Okay, I mean, compare Hebrew National hot dogs with Meal Mart and Aaron's and all this stuff. It doesn't compare. They're delicious hot dogs. Not to mention that you can find them anywhere, right? That you don't have to live in a Jewish community to be able. I mean, with the average Walmart and like your local supermarket has Hebrew National hot dogs. They don't say glatt on them because most people don't know that the word glatt and the idea of putting the word glatt on packages was invented by Hungarians after World War II to corner the kashrut market in America. Why? Because no one used that word amongst Ashkenazim because they knew that it was a lie. So the Hungarians came from Europe after World War II to America and started putting glatt on their products, equivalent to what they do in Israel nowadays, calling everything mahadrin, to say that this is more kosher than that. And they were essentially lying. So being that Hebrew National predates all this nonsense, but they never put the term glatt on it, but there's a triangle K. Rabbi Raubag is, I mean, last I heard it was an Orthodox rabbi. I mean, he passed away. His son took over the triangle K. Then if you want a heksher, or if you want a heter, better, if you want a heter that Hebrew National is allowed, say Rabbi Asher Meza said you could eat Hebrew National hot dogs. So there you go. Enjoy.
I'll look for them sometime. I've never tried.
They're delicious. They're delicious.
They are.
Yeah, and they're little pigs in a blanket. They're so good.
I never had their pigs in a blanket. I just got so disgusted with the thoughts of hot dogs. Like, it's not like I was trying to go kosher. I'm like, wait, this actually doesn't have all that gross stuff in it, so I just got it.
Oh, you're thinking the old understanding of hot
know.
dogs. You know that? Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's a big change. How do you eat at restaurants? Like, how do we? Like, what restaurants can you go to?
I just came from India. You know, so in India, almost everything's vegetarian. So, I mean, as long as you're not serving me great products or shrimp, then, I mean, I have no issue eating in a restaurant in India. Ghee, which is, I mean, the only thing that I have to look into, which is dairy, there. What makes dairy kosher, not kosher, I guess the big argument is rennet. So rennet is a curdling agent. So I would say 50% of the time, they use like a non-meat based rennet, but there's a great rabbi online. His name is Rabbi Chaim Ovadia, very knowledgeable rationalist, very knowledgeable. I mean, he's like an Israeli Iraqi rabbi. So he explains how the whole rennet issue is not a real issue. I don't know. You guys can look it up online. So vegetarian restaurants, I mean, should be good as long as you investigate. Do a little investigation. And that's pretty. I mean, I guess meat restaurants are kind of hard, right? Very hard.
Yeah, because I travel a lot. And it's like, wow, I can't even do a lot of the stuff I used to do.
I mean, in Walmart, you could get a whole meal there. I mean, just kind of build your own, like I said, you get a Hebrew National deli meat. And
but I thought the way the food was slaughtered and prepared was also a factor in it being kosher.
Yeah. I mean, regarding meat, only meat. I mean, in terms of how it's slaughtered.
I've been getting so picky about my food and meat, and not for religious reasons, but it's
just because you're a diva.
Seems like the easiest for us that don't know, like how to investigate, or might not be like the best one out there. There might be a better one in the deli, but you said there's Hebrew National like deli meat too.
Yeah, for sure. They got like.
I've never really understood the restrictions on a lot of the foods, whether it be Judaism or Islam or whatever. I've never really understood that, because if God made us perfect and my stomach is able to digest these things, I just don't see what's the reason why we should restrict. Especially today, food prices are going so high.
Man, I'm telling you, go spend a day with a pig and watch what he eats, and you tell me if you want to eat that. If you want to kill an animal and eat, trust me.
Yo, look what a chicken eats.
So I'm already getting so picky. Don't even make me.
Trust me. Go watch what a pig will eat.
Yeah, but chickens also eat their own.
Yeah, but they have a stomach and acids also, and intestines that kind of gets rid of all of that. It's just a way of them eating, right?
Yeah.
So.
I agree with you.
Do you think eating a pig is the same as eating cucumber, pineapple, apple? You think that's the same? That you'll get the same nutrition out of eating a pig?
I hear what you're saying. The one is a plant and the other one's a meat, so obviously not. Would I consider a pork to be the same as maybe a cow or beef? I definitely, if you cook it properly and you kill everything,
exactly.
Would essentially be there.
Exactly. So why do bodybuilders eat grass-fed lean beef instead of straight? See what I'm saying?
Well, probably because of the way the cows are raised, and what they're being fed. Grass-fed is probably healthier for the animal and then healthier for your digestion.
And that's what I'm saying. A pig will eat anything. That's what I'm saying.
All right, guys. You're making me hungry. Pork may be bad, but it tastes good. But it's been a while.
Animals will be treated better.
No, check out this. They got a website, L'Chaim Meats. They have really good, a very big selection as well.
Okay, but do you eat chicken?
Grow and Behold. Yeah, I eat chicken.
Do you know how badly fed chicken are?
Chicken can be fed
like how many ailments you can get out of chicken. Chicken farmers, they have huge issues raising these chickens because these chickens most of the times aren't treated well, are fed a whole bunch of hormones, much like the cows are.
Yeah, so and like this website, it's Kosher Chicken, it's Grow and Behold. It's like not even just chicken, they have everything. I use like those two websites for all my meat. L'Chaim Meats and Grow and Behold. Check it out. They have very, very good selections.
All right, so in Publix and your local supermarket, you could find Amy's Meals, which are delicious. Like Amy's Pizzas, they're like organic pizzas, or like they're little, like the whole Amy section of like TV dinners and stuff like that. They're like amazing and they're kosher. Again, like very, very like, I mean, for sure Chabadniks wouldn't eat it because they only eat what's called Chalav Yisrael, which is another mafia out there also. I guess I can explain it quick. So Chalav Yisrael means, it literally means like Israelite milk. So the halacha is that a Jew, that you're only allowed to drink milk if it was milked, not necessarily by a Jew, but in the vicinity of a Jewish person somewhere in the building, right? Because of Yirah, out of a fear that the guy would like lose his job if he would be caught mixing pig's milk into it, right? But the understanding is there has to be what's called a hashash, like a reason to do that. For example, in America, because we have the FDA and we have regulations, that people would lose their whole business if they would mix pig's milk into cow milk. We have something called chalav stam. So chalav stam is like MacArthur milk and all that. So the average modern Orthodox Jew will eat products that are like chalav stam, like Hershey's, like Little Debbie's. All these things are dairy, but they're not chalav Israel. While Chabad and very ultra-Orthodox Jews only eat what's called chalav Israel, and it's like the very expensive dairy. Like you can't find it in Walmart, and you can't find it at your local grocery. You only could find it from a Jewish place. So the average ultra-Orthodox Jew wouldn't eat from Amy's Meals and probably wouldn't eat almost any dairy product in a supermarket that had an OU on it. Well, OUD on it at least. But anyways, fine. On that note, guys, let's go ahead and stab out for this session.
You stayed like an hour.
Yeah.
Longer too.
Yeah, I gotta work
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, you see that I'm not as bad as people say I am.
Thank you, Asher, for sharing information. Even if people don't want to use it religiously, people, should share information, and nobody should criticize you for it. You're doing people a favor. No one's perfect, so they judge rabbis harsher. But thank you.
Got it. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Be well. Have a nice week.
Till next time.